We're going to do a feature on somebody who goes round in circles on his motorbike, just like this. No, not that's me doing the wall of death, for goodness sake. No, this fella goes round in circles, but a little bit different. He does it on shale and he does it on grass because he's an international speedway and grass track rider. He's the winner of many of these things as well because he's won titles internationally as world champion. He's won British championships. He's won just about flaming everything, to be honest with you. And that's Joe Screen, who's an international speedway rider. Tell you what, Joe, you look a damn sight more impressive riding a speedway bike than I do going round that wall of death thing. But to get that good, you must have started when you were still in nappies, maybe.
Yeah, I started off riding bikes about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
My dad sort of used to ride a little bit, and he sort of got me a little bike and did a bit of junior grass tracking, and sort of started on speedway when I was about 15.
But there's a story with that, isn't there? This starting speedway when you're 15, you sort of, you didn't get kicked out of school, did you? But like you weren't going for further education and being a doctor or anything.
Yeah, I left sort of school on a Wednesday and rode for Bellevue on the Friday.
That's
really.
unbelievable.
I didn't want to stay at school longer than I had to, and you know, I had the option of making something, and I went ahead and tried to do it.
But you've had success no end, haven't you? I mean, as we speak now, you've been riding for a Polish team, a Swedish team. You've done World GPs as we speak. You're doing them at the moment. Flipping it, it's worked for you. Whatever you've done has worked for you. But don't you get a bit like miffed travelling here, there, and everywhere every day of the week?
Not really. You know, we say a week in the life of a speedway rider is sort of, you could be at Wolverhampton on Monday, you know, Sweden on a Tuesday, back to England racing here on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you're away doing the GPs a sort of Saturday, and then Poland Sunday. So it is heavy, but you know, you have mechanics to do your bikes, and you leave bikes sort of in Poland and Sweden and
Oh, so they're not like inflatable, these things. You don't pack them up in a suitcase and then re-inflate them when you get to Poland. You have a bike in Poland, a bike in Sweden.
Well, say bikes, you have sort of rolling chassis, and you fly over with engines. We have special boxes for put the engines in there, and we fly over. An engine only weighs about 25, 30 kilos, so
right, yeah.
They're not that heavy. You know, you can't take them on hand luggage.
No.
You know, your arms will be pulled out walking down the plane.
Yeah, I can believe that, yeah.
Like,
but you can pretend you just pack a lot of clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Tell us about your career highlight. I mean, am I right to assume winning the world title under 21 was a highlight?
Yeah, I've won the British one twice, and you know, I won the world under 21 when I was sort of, you know, right at the end of the last sort of year I could do. But I've had, you know, a few honours in grass tracks. You know, I won the British grass track twice, and with starting off at grass track is more of a sort of a highlight in my life, winning that, as in starting from there. So the speedway is good though. You know, your butter and all your money's earned by the speedway side of it. So it's sort of, you know, you got to concentrate on more than that. And I would love to do more grass tracking, but it's hard when speedway gets in the way.
Yeah, I know it's not a nice subject to sort of linger on or even touch really, and that is injuries, because your career could be cut very short if you have a bit of an injury or something that cuts it short. But you've bounced back from major injuries, because when you did some world, when you had to qualify for the World GPs, you had a bad injury, didn't you?
Well, I crashed in the end of '95, and I spent all year qualifying to get into the GPs, and you know, sort of 3 weeks before I crashed and broke my foot and compressed the vertebrae. I was in hospital about a week and sort of discharged myself and went and rode in this the Grand Prix Challenge, they call it, which sort of I qualified in 5th.
That's noted, discharging yourself, you know, but I suppose you're a man on a mission. You want results, and I suppose the only way you can do it, they won't put the meeting back just because you're laid up, will they?
It took me all year to sort of qualify, and it was a lot of hard work we went through to do that meeting. And you know, as long as I could sit on a bike and ride, which I did do, I was still on crutches, I couldn't actually walk, but we did it. You know, all the hard work paid off at the end of that meeting, and
Yeah.
you know, I still suffer now from
Do
them
you?
injuries, but not as much as I did at the time.
So tell us a bit about the bikes then, Joe, because you see a lot of the guys that are watching this programme, there's obviously a lot of families and people go and watch Speedway, but there's also a lot that don't, and it'd be nice to encourage them and indicate to them how stupid these bikes are. First thing I know, no brakes. There's something wrong with you.
No brakes at all, mate. You have 500cc cylinder engines. As you've noticed, there's none in at the moment because they're away being tuned. You know, you have sort of a big cog on the back, sort of depends on which track you're riding, the change of the gears sort of ratio. You know, you have a sort of dry clutch, which, you know, the plates in them don't last very long. You can do all sorts of timing, the jetting and the sort of gearing alters which track you ride and the different surfaces you ride.
So you do go out and kick the shale a bit and weigh up how many teeth you want on the back, whether you want your 40s, your 50s or whatever, and then the same applies. You alter your ignition timing and things, don't you, with these magic black boxes?
5 or 6 degrees, different what tracks. You know, it depends on the surface. Some tracks are a lot grippier than others, and you know, basically if a track's very grippy, you set the bike up very strong, and if it's very slick, you kill it off a little bit.
Do you have are the frames unique to you? Do you have you know, like a specific size or whatever to suit you as a rider?
Not really. You can go out and buy these frame kits from sort of antique. There's three different kinds of frame.
Is there?
You know, there's a Czech company, two English companies, and different riders ride different frames to suit them. But you know, there's not much difference between them all anyway. You can actually ride your mate's bike who's a different style frame and still get on with it.
Because you do a bit of that, don't you, bike swapping and things, I've noticed. You know, if things go wrong, because you're in a team, there's naturally a bit of help from the other members. And I've seen it where people, you know, they're sat on the grid, the bike goes wrong, they throw it to one side, another bike comes out, which has been indicated by the commentators isn't their bike, they've loaned a bike.
Sometimes it depends if your spare bike, you have two bikes at a meeting anyway, and if your spare bike's ready to go out, you know, you get on that. But a lot of times you don't have time with the 2-minute ruling we have.
It's quite tight, isn't it?
It is very tight, and sort of say your teammate, his bike's all ready to go on it, and your spare bike's cold. They wheel that out for you, and you know, they say it's difficult, but a lot of the bikes near enough the same. It's sort of the seat height and the way the handlebars are. I run my handlebars very low to compare with riders use them a lot higher, and just that setup really is different.
What about the gear now? Because you are famous for your fancy Union Jack suit. People do look at your bum.
Yes.
Well, they have to, because that's where the
Big
camera's...
enough.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. But the camera's poised there, you've got this fantastic Union Jack suit, and you've got tassels on your suit, of which I take the mickey of, because when you set off from the start, you have this thing about looking like a chicken, because you do this. Obviously, your concentration mode, but your tassels are waving. Where do the tassels originate from?
Well, I used to go to sort of Sheffield Speedway when I was a kid, and my hero was sort of Dougie Wire, and he used to have tassels and sort of.
Right.
You know, I started off, never had them to start with, and then I thought, you know, bring it back into it.
Well, it was good for Dougie, so it might be good for you.
Something
sort of thing,
different, yeah. And it's sort of a
well,
trademark now.
Well, they are a trademark. Yeah, people talk about them. They are a trademark. And the Union Jack fancy suit. What's the suit made out of, like?
It's half nylon, half Kevlar, or you know, a little bit of nylon on the Kevlar. You know, they don't last that long really.
No.
You know, you'd go through about 2 or 3 sets a year.
But they've got to be light, haven't they? Really.
You've got to be light. You've got to feel like you can move around, and you know, with leather, it's a lot heavier, and a lot of when they brought it out, a lot of riders thought it was good because you didn't have to wash them as much as leathers. You could just throw them in the washing machine. With leather, you've got to stand there, scrub them, and put some of that horse wax in.
For goodness sake. Well, I suppose really we better let you get on to doing some preparation, because as you appointed, there's no engines in these bikes.
Yes.
You've got your carbs to clean and all the bits that you've got to do ready for tonight, because it happens to be tonight you have got a race meeting at Hull, haven't you?
Yeah,
so
we're
you've got to
against
travel. We're
Coventry.
in Warrington now, where you live, and we've got to go to, where have you got to go now?
Got to go Hull.
Hull, and then what about the rest of the week? Where you?
Well, I've got Ipswich tomorrow, England versus USA. Test match, which is sort of one's Thursday at Ipswich, Saturday we're at Eastbourne, Monday we're at Wolverhampton.
Flipping it.
But which is pretty steady really, because it's all in one country, which is good. If it was sort of Ipswich Thursday, say Sweden Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Eastbourne Saturday, Poland.
So you've got a
Sunday.
quiet week ahead of
Got
you.
a quiet week.
But you have got to sit in this van going down the motorway
Exactly,
a bit,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you've got
yeah.
a few hours. Well, fair enough. I suppose we better let you get on with it then. Cheers, Joe.